Okay, so this is going to be a fairly short, simple summary, I hope, about the expansion of the United States. So the country starts off with the original 13 colonies, right? When the United States wins the revolution, that's what they have. Over the next several years, you can start to see people creeping towards the west. We're going to settle into these other areas, start pushing westward towards the west coast. It was not automatic that America would become sea to shining sea from the Atlantic to the Pacific. It took a lot of hard work. How can I put this? All right, I'm just going to tell you. It took a lot of taking away land that didn't belong to them. As a person with Native American blood myself, I'm descended from Algonquin Native Americans in the northeastern part of the country. I don't mind telling you that the truth is a lot of land in the United States was taken away from the people who were there before. So they're pushing westward. And then in 1803, there was an opportunity for a major acquisition. President Thomas Jefferson sent emissaries to France to meet with Napoleon, who is the Emperor of the French. Actually, in 1803, he wasn't the emperor. It was a year before then, but he was still in control of France. I'm getting in the weeds. So what Jefferson wanted was to buy the city of New Orleans, because if you controlled New Orleans, you controlled the mouth of the Mississippi River, and the Mississippi was already a very important river in terms of trade and American growth and an expansion. You have to have that river. Napoleon didn't really want to sell just New Orleans. And he kind of wanted to be done with all of his territories in the United States. They were too expensive, causing fights with the British. He was going to be fighting the British back in Europe anyway. And so he made a counter offer. If you increase your offer a little bit into the millions, I'll give you the whole thing, which is the whole Louisiana territory, which is not, understand, the state of Louisiana today. If you look at the map of Louisiana territory, you could be up in Minnesota, and that was Louisiana. You could be in Missouri. I mean, just a huge chunk of the country. Look at the map. You'll see what I mean. Jefferson was a strict constitutionalist, which meant he, according to him, you can only do what the Constitution says you can do. And so by his interpretation, he should not have been able to buy the Louisiana Purchase. There's nothing in the Constitution that says that a president or even the Congress can do that. But he's also not stupid, and he recognizes the opportunity, and he agrees to the deal, and the Congress ratifies the deal. And for a very small amount of money. I mean, you couldn't buy a good office building in downtown Austin for what the United States paid for the Louisiana Purchase. The size of the country doubled immediately. And the country continued to grow westward, right? People settle in Texas, which is kind of awkward for the people of Mexico who own Texas. But as a cat jumps into my lap, that's the nature of things, right? There's going to be expansion, and societies are going to compete for land, and one side is going to win. I don't mean to be softer on Texas than I was about taking Native Americans' land, but it is what it is. I'm not making a moral judgment at the moment. So Texas becomes part of the United States in the 1840s after those folks win their independence and then say, yes, we'd like to join the Union. Around the same time, the United States grows to the West Coast. California becomes a state. And now you pretty much have that sea to shining sea thing. But what's the downside? The big debate every time there is a new piece of land to be added to the country. And I left out something, which is the war with Mexico. The United States went to war with Mexico in 1846. Mexico lost and gave up huge chunks of land, including California, including Arizona. Most of the southwestern part of the United States came as a result of defeating Mexico in a war. And they were not happy about that. And they were not pleased with that for a long time. It really wasn't until the 1940s when President Truman visited and placed a wreath at a Mexican cemetery. I didn't exactly apologize for it, but like, hey, sorry, we maybe haven't been the best neighbor. And maybe some folks won't like this either, but I'm not going to tell you stories. Maybe we're not the best neighbor now. Anyway, the big problem with all this land is not, oh, great, we have new land. It's not financing it. It's not developing it. It's not finding people to live there. The problem is every single time the United States adds land, the first question is, will there be slavery? Can we have slaves here? Will you allow slavery? Don't want it there. There's two sides to this issue. One of them, of course, is the only one that can be morally right, which is the one against slavery. But as an economic issue, separate from the morality, it's more complicated. This is an agrarian society. They depend on farm agriculture, things like that. They need labor. Now, if you're familiar with the show Hamilton, that's a kind of a line from that show that, hey neighbor, you don't pay for labor. The Civil War would settle this, but it was a question for a long, long time. And it certainly dominates all the years that we're talking about in this module. So just understand this. The United States grows, but it has a consequence, because to grow, it has to take away land from Native Americans. That's the biggest one. I would say the most notable example is the Trail of Tears, which was the forced relocation of Native Americans during the time that Andrew Jackson was president. And then you have the Missouri Compromise. You have different detailed things I'm not going to make you learn. I want you to understand this big picture conceptually, that the growth of the United States has consequences in terms of exacerbating the tensions about slavery. And in fact, in this short 5-week class, we're going to have to move to those sectional debates next week. So what we're doing here in week 3 is setting the stage by learning about the growth and the consequences of that growth. Okay, cats are making noise. Time to wrap it up. Write up a simple summary, answer any questions that I provide underneath separately. Do this in a Word document. I'm not trying to be mean about this kind of stuff. I'm trying to get you to build the kind of habits about turning things in. I can tell you from personal experience in a doctoral program, if you turn something in Canvas a certain way, points off. So let's just learn it now. All right, email me if you have questions. Otherwise, that's it for Simple Summary.